Tyler Glasnow of the Tampa Bay Rays joining us right now. First off, Tyler, congratulations on being named on the list for Comeback Player of the Year. How you doing? And do you feel honored to be on a list like that, coming back from an injury that, yes, many come back from, but what you did this year coming off that injury is special and notable, and your peers are recognizing you for it, dude?
Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, I didn't really know how I was going to feel, I guess, like kind of going into that. I pitched a little bit last year, but then had that normal off season. And then I got into season. I guess it was like kind of an up and down, I guess, in terms of like consistency, like each start to each start. The only thing I noticed was like it's a little bit more like hard to ride that wave, I guess, is the only way I can describe it. But I had a lot of starts where I felt really good, and I'm happy like people acknowledge me for it, and I'm glad that I could come back and like, feel good physically. I guess that was the only like question mark. I think feeling bad for such a long time, I think, with that injury, and then like getting it taken care of, and then comparing it to what it feels like now to then is like night and day. So I guess in terms of like my mental, like, can I keep going forward? It feels amazing. So that's just good to know for next season as well.
Tyler, when we went through these awards earlier, I had your back and said you should win. So
Thanks, man.
Just want you to know that. But here's my thing. I know you're up against Ryan O'Hearn, who had a great year for Baltimore. You faced him a bunch of times. And then you have Liam Hendricks, who obviously is coming back from cancer, which is awful.
Yeah.
I'm glad he's back. But for me, you missed almost all of last year. I know you came back at the end and pitched, but to me, comeback means you had to go through something where you missed a significant chunk of usually the season before. So that's why, listen, nothing against Liam, nothing against Ryan O'Hearn, but for me, congratulations, you win the award.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, what like Liam has gone through is pretty insane. I think, like, all things considered, like, I guess like the amount of time I guess I took off was a while, but I also wasn't dealing with cancer. You know what I mean? So I guess that like transcends the baseball kind of like that's like life threatening in a sense. But yeah, I'm just glad I could come back and like pitch relatively well and then feel healthy. That was like the biggest takeaway for me is like just to end the season healthy, feeling like I was kind of going on the upswing. Maybe not like the last month was like a little rough, but I think in terms of like mechanics and like consistency, that's the best month. I think I felt like it felt very similar to before I got hurt. So I think I was like, for me, a good place to leave off for next season.
Well, I did not choose you, even though we were ex-teammates. I did not choose you for comeback player. Sorry.
It's okay.
You beat a ligament. You beat your quad.
Yeah,
you
right,
beat your
exactly.
hamstring ligament. He beat cancer, so that's why I chose that.
That's fair. Yeah.
But what is that? What is? Try to explain to people, because we try to explain it all the time. What does playing hurt actually take away? Because I'm watching a documentary on Netflix about the quarterbacks, and it was talking about how like Kirk Cousins' ribs were broken, and he's like, my mental decisions while I was trying to make plays were affected by the pain. How is it for a pitcher?
Yeah, the thing I noticed the most is I heard it initially in 2019, and I definitely should have gotten the surgery probably in 19, but my MRIs were always like clean, and they were like, I mean, if you can, I was throwing like hard too. I was throwing like 100, so they're like, if you can continue to throw hard and you have pain, you might as well just keep going because you don't really know how the surgery is going to go. So I just kept being like, all right, whatever. It would take me like triple the time to warm up. That would be the biggest thing I noticed. Like you can't really roll out, do your normal routine and get going. Like throwing the first 30 would just be like, this is awful. And then I would keep warming up. I'd take the Theragun and just numb it up. I'd find all these little things like the shock wave, and I would just do everything I could to like get the actual pain feeling out of it. And then as I got hot and I was like getting warmed up, we're like around like 95%, I kind of stopped thinking about it. And then each inning, I'd say I would pitch and the adrenaline of the game would take care of like how I was feeling. It would be more about like executing and like trying to whatever, pitch well. And then I'd sit down and then get up. And I think the more that happened, like I think like the cool down effect, I'd feel it a bit more. And then as the season progressed, it was just like a ticking time bomb. And it was this, this sounds a little weird, but it was a blessing in disguise with certain things. Like I didn't have my like perfect health. So I got to learn all these like little tricks and little things I could do to maybe like warm up quicker or like to get my timing like more efficient faster. So I think I learned a lot of stuff from it, but I also realized like how it does, like you said, I guess like your mental preparation and like when it does creep into your head while you're pitching, instead of pitching or like focusing on executing and trying to get guys out, you're thinking about like, all right, don't hurt your arm, or like you're trying to do something. And I think that's when you start changing some stuff. And I just think for me, it was like 19, 20, 21. I had about 80 innings and I was like cooked. It just, something would happen. And then finally we went in a few years later, the MRI looked exactly the same as it did in 19. And they were like, oh no, your ligament has been ripped off of your bone. We just couldn't tell on the MRI. So like, I guess it was just like too hard to tell, but I'm glad it feels good now. So that's good.
That's great. It feels good now, but I need to know,
Yeah.
Did I break you? We only played for a little bit. Did I break you?
I think
that was 2019.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? It could have been. Yeah. If anyone asks, I'll say it was you. There you go. I think I broke myself. Yeah, I think the mentality these days of throwing everything super duper hard is probably didn't help as well. And I think being tall and throwing hard, it's kind of an like inevitable thing. I think it was like no matter what, I'm getting Tommy John at some point. At least it was this late. So
fair.
So yeah. Tyler, I want to ask you about your teammate Yandy Diaz, who makes the top 3, dude. Right? So all the players vote for AL Outstanding Player. There's pretty good competition on that list: Shohei Ohtani and Corey Seager. And number 3, well, I don't even know if it plays out that way. Top 3 on that list. I'm assuming that Ohtani and Seager are going to finish ahead of him, but he finishes top 3 at least on the AL Outstanding Player Award. So dude's been jacked and full of talent for years. What changed, and how proud are you for him making strides to be one of the best players in the league?
Yeah, I think like he's always been a stud. I played against him in AAA all the time. And he was always like a man amongst boys, I guess. Like, I guess too, if in the minor leagues, like if you got really good stuff, you can kind of just, even if it's not great that day, you're always going to kind of do well and like just throw a curveball and no one can hit it kind of thing. And Yandy was always like, just his approach was always way more advanced than anyone I'd ever faced in AAA. And he was kind of stuck in AAA for way too long. And then he got up to the big leagues, continued to do well. And I think the biggest separator between like last year had a phenomenal year as well. But I think having maybe, I don't know, I haven't really talked to him about it, but like that, maybe that contract extension and like having that like comfort to know you're going to be around for a few more years and you're not going to have to uproot your life. And I think it was just like that comfortable thing, because every year he's been with the team, he was super shy and quiet his first year. And the second year he opened up a bit more. And like, as he kept going, now he's like, has the biggest personality on our team. And he's like, honestly, the glue of our team. Everyone loves Yandy, probably the best teammate, one of the best teammates I've ever had. So I think it's just like all that stuff mixed together makes him just a stud.
I mean, a stud, but like, could he spend like 20 less minutes doing biceps in the weight room? Because
probably
when we faced you in 17, we were playing together in AAA, Columbus versus Indianapolis.
Yeah.
This dude, he wouldn't even sweat, and he would just sit in there just. And then he'd look at his. He loves the. Does he still love the color red?
He loves all the colors. I don't know if red, but he's like he's colorful dude. He's got all the cleats and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, he always loved the color red, and he would pull out he would have a red arm sleeve on while he was working out, and he'd pull out his red phone and he'd look at it, and he never worked out quite enough to sweat, but his arms are just so ginormous. And he finally learned to pull the ball too. He used to only hit the ball to right field.
Oh yeah, that's true. I guess that's also a big separator. But he's still in the weight room every single day. I think because maybe he doesn't work out super like crazy and sweat a bunch. I think that's maybe why he can maintain it. But he's got his routine. He's very, very routine oriented. Like does a lot of the same stuff in the weight room every day. And then, but I think the biggest difference now is like our strength coaches, and I think him too. Like they do a lot more like agility and stretching and everything like that. Because you lift that much, you're going to get a little tight. But he's like. He works hard. He does everything. So I think it's coming together now.
Tyler, you were talking about colorful people. Have you looked at your background of where you're at right now?
Yeah,
it's a rental. I didn't do this.
I mean, it is like when they said Tyler Glasnow was coming on, and then I saw your background, it couldn't have gotten like more perfect. If there was just like maybe a lava lamp in that corner, I would be like, man, he is.
No.
Exactly. Like he is living his perfect life.
Yeah, no, I didn't. This is a rental, but I like how it's like the leaves and stuff. It's quite nice. It's in Florida too, so I think it's just kind of one of those like fitting, like the exposed beams. I think that's what they're called. It's pretty cool. I'm here for another couple days, and then I'll go somewhere else, and then. But yeah, the place I guess that I'm like renovating right now is relatively colorful. I'll have some cool stuff in there too.
All right, good. All right, so
I like it.
It's perfect. It's perfect for you. Don't change. Just stay exactly the same. We showed the Major League Baseball. We talked about the AL Player of the Year, Yandy, your teammates in there. For the Major League Baseball Player of the Year, you have Shohei, you have Mookie, you have Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, I said, everyone's fighting me and saying Shohei, but I said, hold on, let's take a step back here. Ronald Acuna, 40-70, pretty special. Your thoughts?
I think if we're just going pure like stats and like rational thinking, it has to be Shohei Ohtani. Like, and it's boring because like no, I think it kind of sucks, especially with like MVP race and stuff. It's like he's just gonna win it every year if he has two average, like, you know what I mean? Just the fact that he can do both. If you're taking like purely like productive numbers, who would you rather have? Like 40-70 is unbelievable. That dude is a stud. But I think the difference in offense is like, so what Shohei had, what, like how many less stolen bases, maybe a few less homers. He did miss that month. But then you add a whole however many starts he had, like that's, what is his WAR too? Is like double of everyone else's. I feel like it's not even a debate. That guy just wins every year.
Yeah, but see, that's no fun though. That takes the fun out of it if he just wins every year. It would be like if you went up there and you pitched the way you pitch, and then you went up there and hit 35 homers. Right?
He'd want to win every year because
exactly.
he has more talent.
I'd be like, yes. I think too, if you don't win, and then it starts to open up that like you kind of get away from like, you got to have some sort of like concrete, like, okay, how do you win? What do you need to do stat wise? If you start kind of deviating from it and giving it to other people, then it just becomes like this, like, we all know Shohei should win this. And then you just, I don't know. It just seems to me like the most genuine 100% answer is Shohei. And maybe another year he like won't do as well in each, and someone else will have like a 50-80 season, and then they can win.
So that's the number it takes, 58.
Or Reggie Crawford.
Yeah. Or Judge hit 62 last year and beat him for the MVP.
Yeah, there's other two-way players that'll come up to the bigs someday.
Someday.
Yeah.
Someday. It's only been 150 years. There's been two of them.
Yeah. That's true. I guess Judge won last year, so I don't know. I guess it depends on like how you calculate, like, I don't know. That's a good point, actually.
Break the home run record, play outstanding D, and be able to run the bases as a 6'8" monster, and you have a shot.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Or go 40-70.
Tyler's almost 6'8", so he knows.
Yeah. I don't know if I can hit any homers like that, but
you can hit a couple. Just let him eat. Just get a good bat. Yeah. You definitely gotta. Yeah. You gotta
do some curls. Do some curls.
He's not allowed to hit anymore. He's not allowed.
Yeah.
They took it away.
Hey, what did you think? You following the playoffs much?
Say it again. Sorry, mate. Just skipped out.
You following the playoffs much?
Not a lot. I was just in the Bahamas, so I wasn't like the TV. We were trying to watch it, and it kept skipping out and going crazy, so we just ended up shutting it off. But I've been watching the Phillies more, just because that vibe over there is just like insane. It just seems like the most playoff baseball. Like, it's so hard not to watch. It's so entertaining. Like, the fans there, it's like a cult following. Everyone is just like a savage. They talk a bunch of shit. Like, that's been super entertaining. And the Braves series, like, I just thought the Braves were gonna like dominate everyone. But something about that postseason magic, like that Phillies team is just like something different in the postseason. And Eflin's on our team too, and I would always pick his brain on like the whole like what's going on over there, and he had nothing but good things to say. And just it's just like a whole different like brand of baseball, I guess, over there. Something happens in the postseason, and it just is like turns to magic.
You could be a Philly too if you want. Come on up. I'll get you a rental place. We're just, I'm in the basement here. It won't be. I can make it colorful if you want it to be. Yeah. I can recruit you. Yeah, but no. Did you see the whole Harper and Arcia versus the media thing?
Yeah, that was dumb.
That happened.
I get it for like the fan perspective. Like, I understand like media doing it. It's a little fucked up in my opinion that they would even put that. Like, how many times after a game has someone said the exact same thing just completely as a joke? But you just assume the media is not going to like run with it. But I think because of the playoffs and all the eyes on it, they overblew that like a ton. That, you know what I mean? I doubt he was in there like actually talking shit. I think he was just joking around with his teammates, and then it became a thing. But I feel like I don't know. I haven't talked to anyone on the Phillies or the Braves, but like I'm sure the players in that situation were like, this is dumb. But like the city and the fan base is obviously going to like play into that. But I don't know.
Hey, don't poke the bear when it comes to Bryce Harper in the postseason, okay? Don't poke the bear. Like, just don't say anything about him. Like, let's say with the blowing the candles, 31, right? Listen, I've obviously watched all these games. There's no team that I want to play for more than the Philadelphia Phillies. I mean, these dudes just take the field, and you are like, this is just fun, right? From the atmosphere, very similar to the Trop, right? When you take the field at the Trop, and there's like 12,000 for a playoff game, you're like, man, this is very similar to Philadelphia.
Yeah, I would say so. Close enough. Wait, after that the comment thing, did Harper like say anything, or did he just kind of like whatever? Or like,
Harper was like, "Oh, I heard it," and then he went and hit 2 homers and stared down Arcia both times he's running around the bases. He hit second base, and there's like there's photos of him like staring right at Arcia as he's rounding second base. So yeah, Harper played it up. Harper was like, "Oh, I heard it. Oh, hell yeah, I thought it was great." He's like, "I thought it was funny." But at the same time, he's like, "Oh, hell yeah, it motivated me."
He said it as like an entertainer. He's not like, "Oh, I hate him."
No, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. He like used it as fuel, I guess, like not going to like be all salty about it, but like you hit 2 homers and stare someone down. I guess you're pretty aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And you said that like we're still kind of talking. What did you say that is? That he stared him down? You said that was badass, right?
Me?
Yeah.
No, Glasnow did.
Me? I'm like, hell yeah, I think that's badass.
Like I think that's I think that part of the game is missing in baseball, and it's okay. Like they're not like mortal enemies. They don't just hate each other, but they're competitive and they want to get after it. And I think this is missing, and you need to bring it back with your lovely locks of love that you have.
Yeah, there you go. I think it depends on like who you are as a person as well. Like I think Bryce, like that's there's nothing worse than a guy like everyone's played with it, like the fake tough dude, or like that happens. And like if someone like weren't actually to feel it and we're like staring down, you'd be like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like it might be a thing from a fan perspective, but like as long as it's genuine. Like I know there's some dudes that are like who probably should bring that back, but I don't want the fake tough stuff. It happens if it happens, but like, you know what I mean? Like it's when it's genuine, it's awesome. And like, you can use it as fuel, but if it's just like cameras are on me, I got to act tough. It's like, I don't know, maybe not.
Hey, Tyler, obviously you said you haven't watched all of the postseason, but have you seen some of the pitching moves? Like Bochy left Eovaldi in yesterday, bases loaded, got out of it, no runs, no outs. And then you see like Barrios with the Blue Jays against the Twins, 47 pitches, no hits, and they're like, "Yeah, you've done enough today. Let's go ahead and beat this." I mean, how does Kevin Cash play that with the Rays? And would you be pissed if you're Barrios and they're like, "Yeah, you've done enough today. It's been 3 innings. You haven't given up anything, but yeah, beat it."
Yeah, I'm like kind of both sides on this. So like, so the Rays, I feel like the way that they do all their stuff, it's very much like it's like a poker game. Like what are the like strip all the emotion out of it, just like purely algorithm. Like this is the data. This is like who's hitting, who's pitching. Everything's a poker game. And like within poker or whatever you play, blackjack, in any sort of like gambling situation, you have to always stick to your game plan throughout the season. You can't really, if you're going to like go with the data set strategy, you have to do it all season long. And then if you're going to go with like no, this guy's feeling hot, this guy's not feeling like that kind of thing, you probably should do that all season long. But I think the second you start doing like data and then like, I don't know, I'm going to go away from that plan and put this guy in because I have like a hunch feeling, I think that's when you could get into trouble. But there's something about like that, you can do that in the regular season very comfortably, and like the Rays do it the best. And I think if I were to maybe be in a position to have to make those decisions, I would probably mimic something like that. But I think there's something like unquantified postseason. And I think there are moments when it's kind of hard. Like, are you supposed to abandon the plan you've had all season and then go the emotional route? Or are you supposed to like, it's just like a hard thing. But I think that's when like that baseball expertise comes in. There's not a lot of stuff that's like, all that data stuff just becomes wacky in the postseason. Like even our analytics team will talk about like, there's some stuff that changes in the postseason and we don't seem to understand why. And me I'm like, it's the emotional stuff. There's so much more going on. It's like everyone's nervous. You're trying to do more than you should. And there's a bunch of stuff, but I think like, yeah, I don't know. I think that old school mentality kind of works a bit better in the postseason. It seems so the last few years anyway.
Max Muncy said that yesterday. Remember, we had Max Muncy on yesterday, and he said we do our whole thing with the Dodgers, and we have our analytics, and we grind out at bats, and then he goes, and then we go play the Diamondbacks, and they're hitting every first pitch for homers, and pitching is completely different, and playing the game completely different than we played them. So yeah, maybe it works in the regular season, but then in the postseason, you got to make some adjustments to your game plans and to your pitching plans. I mean, I don't know. It's just an interesting argument and a conversation that needs to be had more in baseball.
And Tyler, you've been on the Rays for a while. Like, I'm sure you guys are pissed as hell. Now you're a couple weeks removed from it, but like you guys had a great year. The start to the season was historic. I mean, how pissed was their group? And we've talked to a lot of guys in the past couple weeks, like right after they finish up their season. Like, how was that next, few hours when you go into the clubhouse, what are guys saying? Like, damn, what a run. And
dude, he went to the Bahamas, bro. He's like,
yeah,
oh,
well,
okay.
that's after. The immediate aftermath, like we talking to Muncie yesterday, he's still at the stadium getting his stuff together, going like, what the fuck just happened the last week?
No, it sucked. Like, I think just because our team was so good, there's a bit of an element too of like a lot of, and like you can't use like injuries as an excuse, but it's like I think that like the team that we would have fielded might have looked a bit different if everyone was healthy. But that, you know what I mean? Like everyone deals with injuries all year long. We seem to deal with them more than most, I think, this year and last year. But I think, like, I don't know, it sucks a lot. And I think it's not even like like when it first happens, like you definitely feel like shit. But I think it stings a lot more when, like, for me anyway, like you kind of stop thinking about it and a few days go by and you wake up and you're like, oh, like in the moment you get done and everyone's like passing out beers and you're like doing stuff and you're trying to like remember the good stuff and everyone's just trying to like forget about how shitty this feeling is. Like, let's try to just think about the good stuff. And then I think for me anyway, like as the days go on, I think it gets a little harder to like, it's like, damn, like wait, what could have been? Like the dust settles and then you start to think about it and like what you could have done differently and like what decisions or, you know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of different, you don't want to look back and go like, what if, but I think it's a lot harder as time goes on. And then it starts to fizzle out, I guess, in the off season. And then like you start doing a bunch of stuff and you get ready for the next season and you can kind of let it go. But I think it's kind of one of those when you're sitting there randomly at like 2 p.m. and I'm like not doing anything. And I just get that like intrusive, like, damn, like I could have, you know what I mean? Like you think about things you could have done differently. And like, that's, I think, what sucks the most. But I think it also, you can use it as fuel. And every year, I think a lot of guys do. It's just like you try to work on what you didn't do well and try to get more consistent and then bring it into next season.
I'm not going to speak for AJ, but I can say you'll remember the losses just as much as you remember the wins. So, yeah, that's real that you're saying, damn.
Yeah, it sucks for sure. I think maybe it'll change maybe over time too, but I think the ones you lose, I remember those way more. You know what I mean? Like something about that, like you just remember the negative experience. Like you could have like 10 good games in a row, but I always like kind of hold on to like the bad ones a lot more for sure. Not like it's like detrimental to my day, but I think as an athlete, you're always like, you're so like OCD and nitpicky about like, you want to be so perfect, especially baseball players. You have that like perfection thing and you just like, it's hard to let go of.
Hey, I understand. That's like kind of how I knew I was done because the hits were not making up for the strikeouts, right? And the wins weren't making up for the losses. So, because yes, as a competitor, you're always like, I mean, I lost in the playoffs before and I'm just like, and you sit down, you get out of it, you get home and you're just like, gosh, if I would have done this better, if I would have, and it can, you know, but then it also as a professional athlete, you get over and you move on to the next, but there is a time where you kind of self-reflect and you're like, gosh, if I just would have done this better, if I would have, you know, it's
team sport though.
Yeah.
Baseball is a team sport made up of individual performances.
Yeah.
Played by individuals.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I think that's what's the hardest part about like watching it in the off season. Like I love watching it, but I always get that, like, I get like FOMO, you know what I mean? It's like, I should be there, like playing right now. And then like all this magical stuff happens. You're like, I want to feel that. And like, especially going to the World Series and like not winning, it's just something, it's always kind of like, I want to get back there. And it is like a good feeling as well. Like knowing you're not there, I think like throughout the off season, especially after like the World Series year, like you think about it all the time, like within your workouts or whatever you're doing, you're like, I want to get back there. And that's like kind of the goal that like sets up all your workouts. And then you go into spring and then try not to get too ahead of yourself to long season, but like, that's the ultimate goal. So I think that, you know.
What is your feeling going into a season where you're on the Rays the last year of your contract?
I love the Rays so much. Like it's like the best I've been with two organizations, but like I also love the Pirates as well. But I like
Liar.
The Rays, the way they do stuff.
Liar! This is a player show. You do not lie.
I do. There's a lot of things the Pirates did that I really appreciate. Like a lot of the coaches, the minor leagues especially, it was a little militant, and there were some things that I'm sure even if they were to go back, they'd change. But I learned a lot from the Pirates. Like in the minor league, like there's a lot. I look back on it now, and it's like a lot of fond memories, you know. And I think like in the moment, it was like this kind of sucks, but it was like an overall positive. I learned a lot, good experience. But I think coming to the Rays, it's very like, all right. For example, I guess the Pirates are more like, you know how we would have like haikus and stuff, and it was always just like we would have like that kind of stuff. The Rays are like win, like. Everything we're doing, there's no fluff. There's like all of this stuff we're doing. We have this huge R&D team, all the data stuff, whether you agree with it or not. Like, we are here to win. When you talk to Cash, when you talk to Eric, there's no like any sort of like phone. It's just like, we are here to win, and we're going to do whatever we can to win, while also emphasizing like, we need good people in the clubhouse. There's not a single employee that's like a bad dude. There's no like salty, bad energy type of person. All the players are good. The clubhouse is phenomenal. They run like the best clubhouse ever. So to get back to your original question after that rant, I'm very sad, but I'm also excited to like, I want to go out on a high note. Or I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if I'm going to talk to them and try to stay longer. I don't know if I'm going to get traded tomorrow, but I do know that like, I would like to stay there. That is like my number one place I want to be, because it's like the most amazing atmosphere to play baseball.
Because you've never
atmosphere in terms of like all the like the clubhouse and the players and the coaches, and like as like a place you work, being an employee or whatever I am there, it's an amazing place to play. Like, if you talk to any players who's ever been a Ray, they'll tell you like how the clubhouse is and like how the coaches are, and that dynamic is very special and very rare, I think.
Because you said there's no salty guys. I'm like, Westy, their traveling guy, who used to be is very salty.
He's the traveling secretary now. He can be a little salty, but he's a good dude. He's the man.
You better say that, because it'll give you bad hotels and bad tickets next year. So, Westy, you're the man.
He's always hooked me up.
Westy's the man.
Guy. No, Westy's the man.
He's the man.
Westy's the man.
Hey, I'll say this, because I know you probably won't comment a ton necessarily on this front, because you'll see how it plays out. But you signed a deal with the Rays a couple years ago. They don't always spend a ton on free agents. I don't think that's a secret. It's a bottom few payroll usually in baseball. There was that report, what was it, a couple years ago, that they offered Freddie Freeman. It was like 6/140 or 7/150. So it's there. There's a bag there. Just saying. So yeah, it could be you if it works out. Plus the Florida State tax. I know they'll remind you. Which
every time I'm like thinking about it in my brain too, I like think about that as well. Or like, I'm like, God, I want to stay here, and like, but they don't usually pay guys and blah blah blah. Or I'll talk to my agent, and it's like, they did offer Freddie a big contract, and they talked to Scherzer. I'm pretty sure they gave like, Scherzer was in the picture, or like I think they maybe tried to talk to like DeGrom and stuff too. It's not like they're not. I just think it has to make sense on like whatever their like data algorithm-y thing is, and they have a really good way of like identifying talent. And generally, when they sign dudes, they do well there, so it's like whatever the system says my value is, or however the front office or whoever, I don't know how they do it, but like I hope that I am able to stay.
Scherzer, DeGrom, Kratz, like a top end starter, young in his prime. Sounds like there's a dude there. Just throwing it out there.
There you go. So, yeah, sweet.
We got you. Well, Tyler, dude, it was great hanging. Really appreciate the catch up, and obviously coming on to talk about the award. Congrats on being a finalist. We'll announce those in a few weeks, and congrats to your boy Yandy Diaz, who's definitely out there somewhere doing. I'm not going to mimic it because these guys will make fun of me, but we know what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he's working
Thanks,
hard.
Tyler. Yeah.
Cheers,
thanks, man.
guys.
Good catching up.
Yeah, appreciate it. See ya.